I did it! I finally started my Immolator. In today's video, we'll be starting an adventure. This is part 1 of a 3-part series that I'll be doing the next 3 weeks, mainly for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, this month is my birthday month, so I just really wanted to start my Immolator. Reason number 2 is that the tank is pretty detailed, so I thought, splitting it into 3 sections would make it nice and convenient. So these parts will be covering first, bottom, the top of the tank, and then the glass, providing you an opportunity to paint with me along these 3 weeks. But before we get into that, if you'd like to see more videos like this, as in bigger models, let us know what models we should paint next. Also, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And also be sure to like and subscribe. But that's enough chilling, so let's get into this. Before we get deep into painting, prime it with Chaos Black. The first thing you'll do is dry brush lead belcher over the tracks. Doing this first will allow you to paint without worry of hitting the black panels, since we'll be covering those up right after this. Use Abaddon Black to stipple all over the tank, mainly where it will be kept black. We do this so when we paint our other colors over it, if we mess up, we can easily fix it with the exact paint shade. I chose stippling over washing because I found out with washing, I couldn't avoid streaking on all the big panels, but when you stipple, you will get a tiny amount of texture, however it will be a continuous pattern compared to the uneven streaking of washing. Now let's do my favorite yet time-consuming part, edge highlighting. With Fenrisian Gray, start highlighting all the edges on the panels that will be kept black. You can choose how many edges you want to highlight, but I do enjoy the method, so I try and do most if not all edges.
Hey there, this is Jay cutting in. As the editor / co-host of Realm Painters, I must admit, Sheridan is absolutely insane with the amount of edging she has done for this tank. Don't do this. This is ludicrous. There's 45 minutes. 45 minutes of nothing but edge highlighting. This is crazy.
Now onto the sculptures, let's base coat them in Wraithbone. This will take a handful of watered down paint layers. Just make sure you water the paint a little bit since Wraithbone has a history of getting grimy fast without any dilution. After you get them to full coverage, wash all the sculptures in Dark Oath Flesh. I also recommend watering the paint with either water or Lamian Medium. Then, once that's dry, with a small dry brush, get a little bit of Wraithbone and brush over the sculptures from the top down. When you're done painting these sculptures, make sure to clean up the black panels and highlight edges with the previous colors. Now let's start painting some of the sections that are silver. We'll begin with painting the metal pillars in the front and in the back with lead belcher. Then with Nuln Oil, you give both sides a thick wash. Make sure the wash fully dries before you edge highlight with Runefang Steel. Now with the same silver recipe, use that for the front window frame, the two big rivets on both sides, and the footsteps. When you paint the footsteps, stippling and brushing with a small dry brush seem to be the easiest to get an even coverage of Leadbelcher without it trying to clog the holes. The footsteps will also have a slightly different recipe. Once you let the Nuln Oil dry, do another wash of Agrax Shade. I recommend splotching it on unevenly to make sure it looks like dirt. Then go ahead and finish by edge highlighting with Runefang. Let's start painting the emblems on the tank sides. With Corn Red, base coat the backplate. This will take a few coats, but make sure you water down the paint to avoid any clumps. After that, paint the beveled edges in Mephiston Red. You can see that just painting the beveled edge doesn't quite pop out, so I do like to line the edges on the flat plane to get a thicker edge highlight. Next up, we'll paint the white fleur-de-lis. Fleur-de-lis? Fleur-de-lis? How do you say fleur-de-lis?
Which language? In German, fluidly is
That's
decent.
not what I wanted. Next up, we'll paint the white fleur-de-lis. With any white, I use Vallejo white, base coat the emblem. Again, this will take quite a few coats, and make sure you water down the paint to avoid clumping. After the fleur-de-lis has a full coat of paint, let's use some apothecary white to shade some of the undersides of the emblem. I use the box art as reference of where I'm putting the apothecary. You may need to water down some white paint to get a gradient on the details that are made on the middle of the emblem. Now with Retchbeater Gold, let's start painting everything that's gold on all four sides. First, I'll paint the skull emblem in the middle. Then start painting the viney filigree. Don't forget to paint the small fleur-de-lis throughout the tank as well. Then with Rakelin Flesh Shade, wash all the gold. Lastly, with Liberator Gold, dry brush the gold in a downward motion on the skull and fleur-de-lis. You can optionally dry brush the vines, but there's really no need to. While we've been painting the side emblems, let's finish that area real quick. Let's start with the hinges by painting them with Leadbelcher. Then with Nuln Oil, wash the hinges with 2 coats. Then with Runefang Steel, highlight the edges and the rivets. Now onto the last piece on the side doors, the parchment symbol. With Ushapti bone, base coat the parchment. This should take about 2 to 3 coats to get fully opaque. Then with dark oath flesh, wash the Ushapti bone. Then optionally, edge the highlight with Ushapti. This is an optional section for the parchment. However, on the transfer sheet card, they do have the transfer used on the box art if you want to add the extra detail. I personally use microset and microsol in the process, but it's totally fine using just water. Next up, let's do more of the silver sections. With lead belcher, paint the bolter in the front. Then on the back, paint the small vent and the little extra nibs in these 2 sections. Lastly, with the lead belcher, paint these 2 doodads in the front. If you by chance know what these are, please let me know. Now with all these coated in silver, wash everything in Nuln Oil. With the bolter, once it's dried, coat the flat plane with another layer of Nuln Oil to darken it once more. Lastly, with Runefang steel, edge highlight the bolter and the rims of the doodads. So we're not finished with these sections yet. With Liberator Gold, paint the fleur-de-lis on each side of the bolter and on top of the 2 doodads. After that, give them a wash of Reikland Flesh Shade. Let's move on to the middle of the back. Let's start off with some more lead belcher to paint the edges of the missiles and the box connecting it onto the tank. You can see at first I'm selecting only some areas on that little box, but I did realize all of it's silver, so just make sure to paint it all. Then with Warp Block Bronze, paint the flat sections on the missile. With now both silver and bronze put down, give both of those a wash of Nuln Oil. Make sure that the indent area where the wire is gets a thicker coat of wash so it's darker than the upper sections. Next up, paint the wings and the hazard stripes wire with the Liberator Gold. I'll add the black stripes a bit later, but let's finish the missile before getting back to that. Now with Reikland Flesh Shade, wash over the wings, making sure it pools between the feathers. Now let's get the highlights put onto the missile sections. First, let's start by dry brushing Liberator Gold downwards onto the wings. Then with Runefang Steel, edge highlight the silver ledges and dry brush the textured wire. Let's paint the fleur-de-lis in the missile itself by first coating them with dawnstone. This may take 2 layers at least. Then with any white, add the missile head on the tip and make some highlight dots on the fleur-de-lis. Let's wrap up painting the missile by getting a couple details put down. With corn red, paint the little button thing in the front. Just a layer or 2 will do. Lastly, with Abaddon black, paint the hazard stripes onto the wire. It shouldn't be too difficult since it's basically just painting little dots on the wire since it's so thin, but other than that, that's the missile completed. Now we got just a few more things to do before the first video is a wrap. We have the pointed grill in the front, the 4 exhausts with the fire, and then the headlights. Let's check off the list by doing the grill first. With lead belcher, paint the whole section silver. Make sure to avoid the hinges, which should be kept black. Now with Nuln oil, wash all the silver. Then, after drying, let's also do a wash of Agrax Earthshade to weather the lead belcher. After all of that is dry, edge highlight with Runefang Steel. If you did the exact same thing as I did, you've noticed that the hinges have not been edge highlighted. If you haven't, go ahead and with Fenrisian Grey, paint all the edges on the hinges. And your grill should be complete. Now onto the headlights. With Lothern Blue, base coat all the lights until it's fully opaque. Then with a 50-50 mixture of white and blue, start painting up the glowing light on the top corner. Use lighter mixes to build up the highlight until you're liking and the headlights are complete. Let's move on to the final step in the first part of the series, the 4 pillars. The first paint we'll be using will be Runelord Brass on the main section. It took me a few coats to solidify the color. Then with Agrax Earthshade, wash the 2 layers over the Runelord Brass. I recommend when washing the pillars to leave the tank on its side when letting it dry, so it evenly pools in the holes and edges. So you'll have to wash only 2 pillars at a time and letting them dry until you can do the other side. It will take a bit, but I promise it is worth it. After you complete both sides of the vents and they're fully dried, let's edge highlight the pillars with Runelord Brass. This can be an optional step, but I believe it gives it a better finishing touch. Now with Lead Belcher, paint the iron grate covering the pillars. Just make sure to not paint the grate covering the fires on top, since we'll paint those later. However, don't forget to paint the base connecting the pillars to the tank Lead Belcher as well. Like with other silvers, give it a wash of Nuln Oil and the edge highlight with Runefang Steel. Next up are the flames. I do recommend looking at the box art for a color reference, since that also helped me a lot. Anyways, go ahead and base coat all the sections of the flames with Evil Sun Scarlet. I did about 2 layers. Now with Troll Slayer Orange, water it just a little bit and coat the entirety of flames. Now make sure between all these coats going forward to make sure the model is completely dry before continuing on. Next, with Uriel Yellow, add a bit more water to the paint and wash about 3/4 up the flames and let dry. The next wash will be a 50-50 Uriel and white wash. Make sure you add a good amount of water onto this one so it mostly coats the divots in the flames. Also, make sure you paint only the lower half of the flame. Now with all the highlights painted, let's start shading the outer flames. With Uriel Yellow, paint the outer edges on the bottom parts of the flames. Make sure you keep it near the bottom area. And then go ahead and transition that Uriel to Troll Slayer Orange in the lower mid area, just making sure you keep it just shading the outer edges. You may want to go back and forth with Uriel and Troll Slayer to blend the colors together. Lastly, with Evil Sun Scarlet, paint the tips of the flames. Finally, the very last piece to this tutorial will be the flame grill. Personally, I like to paint the grills back to Abaddon Black before painting Lead Belcher. I only recommend this because I personally think metallic looks best over black, and since the excess paint from the flames cover most of the piece, just do a quick wash of Abaddon. Now paint it all Lead Belcher. Then, as all of our other silvers, give it a good wash of Nuln Oil, making sure it pulls onto those rivets. Lastly, after it fully dries, do a small edge highlight of Runefang Steel, and part 1 of this 3-part series is done! Whew, that was a lot. But just like that, you've gotten the main part of the tank done. The body part of the tank can really serve you well in a sister's army, since all of the other tanks have a similar type of feel to them, like this one, so you can really use this tutorial to start on all the other tanks. But I really had a blast painting this, especially the edge highlighting. I know it's not for everyone, especially not Jared, but I really enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe so you get notified for the second video coming out next week. But until then, I'll catch you in another realm.